Hello everyone. This video will show transformation of trigonometric functions. To better understand how this general function form right here works, let's have some examples. Okay, so we're going to go over these examples. We're supposed to sketch the graph of this given function right here. We're going to use the four-step method to sketch this graph. So the first step is to determine the amplitude and the midline. So our amplitude here is 4 and the midline is equal to k. In this case here, our k is equal to -2. So we can use the equation y equals -2. The second step is to determine the starting point or where the graph begins when it makes one cycle. So in this case right here, we're supposed to equal this expression, the one inside the parentheses, equal to 0. So in this case right here, we have 3 pi over 5, x equals 0, and we're going to solve for x. So in this case right here, I'm going to multiply 5 over 3 pi to both sides of the equation, so that we are left with just x and it is equal to 0. So our first cycle will start at x equals 0. The third step is to determine the period. So the formula for the period is 2 pi over b. Now we remember that the b is the coefficient of the x. In this case right here, the coefficient is 3 pi over 5. So that's divided by 3 pi over 5. Since this is a complex fraction, we're gonna flip the denominator and multiply across. So that would be 5 over 3 pi. In this case right here, we can cross out the pi and pi. So we are left with 10 over 3. So that is our period. Now we move on to the fourth step. So the fourth step is to determine the endpoint or where the endpoint of one cycle sits. So the formula for the endpoint is the starting point plus the period. In this case right here, 0 plus the period here is 10 over 3. So the endpoint is 10 over 3. And now we're ready to sketch the graph. So our midline is at y equals -2. So y equals -2 is going to sit right here. So this is our midline. So we're going to plot the 5 points on the midline. So that's the starting point. This is our end point. We take the middle, and we take the middle of these two, and we take the middle of these two right here. So we're going to determine the coordinates for each of these dots. So we're going to start with a starting point at 0. And our end point is at 10 over 3. So this is 10 over 3. Now we're going to determine the coordinates for each of the other 3 dots in the middle. In order that we can do this, let's start with the middle here first. To get this coordinate, we're going to add the 0 and the 10 over 3 and multiply by 1/2. So that would be 0 plus 10 over 3. Multiply this by 1/2. So that's a 0. So this would be 10 over 3 times 1/2. So in this case right here, this is 10 over 6. Or if we reduce this to lowest term, this would be 1 and this is 5. So this is 5/3. So this is 5 over 3. Now let's determine the middle between 0 and 5/3. So it's pretty much the same thing. We're adding 0 and 5/3. So 0 plus 5/3, multiply this by 1/2. So 0 plus 5/3 is 5/3. And then multiply that by 1/2. So in this case right here, we have 5 over 6. So this is 5/6, and we can't reduce that. And we determine the coordinate of this one here. So we're adding 5/3 and 10/3. So that would be 5/3 plus 10/3, and then multiply that by 1/2. So this is 15/3 times 1/2. In this case right here, we can reduce this to lowest term. This becomes 1, and this becomes 5. So then that would be 5/2. So this is 5/2 right here. So we can go ahead and sketch the graph. Since we say that this is a negative cosine, so the amplitude is 4. So I go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to start here, and then I'll go down to the first dot, and then I go up 4 because the the amplitude is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I go all the way up here, and then I go back down 4 and down 4 right there. So this is the graph of this function that we have up there. So that is how we graph trigonometric functions.